Hi, this is Shoshana Brigette from colorkarma.com. I'm here with Mike Scrutton from Adobe.
Good to be here.
Thank you. And we're going to talk today about textiles.
Yeah, absolutely. Very exciting space.
I grew up with Adobe with Photoshop and Illustrator, and now Adobe is basically all medias.
Absolutely.
Sounds, so now you're going textiles. Tell me.
Textiles, yeah, absolutely. Adobe really got started with the desktop publishing industry, putting ink on paper 35 years ago, I guess, when the company started.
Yeah.
And the printing industry has changed a lot in the last 35 years.
Yep.
It's not just ink on paper anymore. For us, it's any type of manufacture. Any time that you're taking some design on the screen and then making it real. And one thing we realized a few years ago was that the problems that people in the textile industry were having were quite different to the issues of the regular ink on paper. There's no standardized substrates that you're printing on.
Yep.
The inks are very different. Fabrics that you're printing on have a feel and behave different ways as well.
That hand feel, that's what they call it, hand feel.
Exactly. And whereas the closer you get to that in the ink on paper industry is maybe, a photo gloss versus a matte or an uncoated stock. So there's a lot more variables we found in the textile space, and it really required a different approach from us when it comes to the world of manufacturing.
But they're still using the same tool set. They're using Illustrator.
Absolutely. Designers are using a mix of Illustrator and Photoshop to create content for putting prints onto fabric, the same as they might use those tools for creating ink on paper products or magazines, books, packaging, handbills, or anything like that. It's just a different type of application.
So how does this plug-in to Illustrator help those textile designers?
So Adobe Textile Designer is a Photoshop plugin. It works and allows you to take content whether it was created originally in Illustrator or in Photoshop. But it really enables people to see their designs in full repeat all the time. So very often when you're designing a repeating print for fabric, you spend a lot of time switching back and forth between the document you're creating, the little square that you're creating, and then having to, by trial and error, repeat it over a larger area to see what it would look like over an expanse of fabric. So we built in something which has live previews, so you can always see what it looks like when it's going to be in repeat.
And you said it's a Photoshop plugin.
It's a Photoshop plugin.
But designers usually design their patterns in Illustrator?
It's a mix. It really is a mix. It depends on the type of content. So some people will sketch in Illustrator, and if you want to do some sort of vector work with hard edges, then Illustrator can be a good way of getting started with when you're building up a design. A lot of the designers that we spend time with are working with mixed media, and in fact they might even start off with a design by literally sketching in their sketchbook, crayons, watercolors, paints, whatever they like, and then wanting to scan and digitize that work. And some people will then try and convert to Illustrator, but in many cases we're finding that people find it easier to scan into something like Photoshop because they've scanned an image and we can preserve that image content within the Adobe Textile Designer and actually make it easier. So for example, there's one illustration that we've used where somebody has painted some raspberries, some berries, and they've done them as a watercolor. What we've done with Textile Designer is make it very easy to isolate the berries that you have in your design, put them into a nice motif, put them into some sort of repeating print, but then start thinking about the recoloring process that you would do with those designs. So that, for example, you could have a red berry on a pale white background, or you could have a blackberry on a brown background and work with different colorways and color variations, which for people in the textile space is very, very important. So you design once or you sketch once, but then have many different iterations on your design to see what's going to resonate. And
in the Photoshop, would they then use layers to remove that, almost hide that first scanned image?
So what you typically would do is that you would use layers within Photoshop, and you would use a mask to isolate, let's say, one particular berry and maybe play with the different rotations or scales of that particular element. You might try some duplicate those layers, move them around relative to each other, and build up a multi-layered design.
Yep.
That is what is going to resemble the print when you're finished.
And then you can shift those different layers and masks the way you need them in the order you need them.
Exactly. And not only to get the order right, depending on how you want the different parts of your design to be layered as well. One problem that textile designers have is if you want to put something into repeat, very often you might try and drag something off the edge of the canvas. And what you actually want it to happen is to be a bit like a donut. You want to go all the way around and see it on the other side of your design as well. And typically that would be quite a complicated task to do manually, but one of the features we've added in Textile Designer is a one check button, so you can actually tell it to wrap that one particular layer, and it literally automatically brings in the design off one edge and back on the other.
So it's like wrapping a present that has a pattern, and the
right.
picture of the cupcake doesn't line up on the back end of the package.
Exactly. So we do all the math automatically so that it always lines up.
Oh wow.
And not only does that work for like a regular grid, like you would think of like a checkerboard, when you're doing textile design, you very often think in terms of either a brick like design or a drop, which is like a brick. Imagine brickwork but the other way around. We do the math to handle that sort of use case as well. So if you're even a 1/3 drop, where every time you move this square across, you're going to drop by half the height of the square, we handle all that math for you, so that you go off one edge and we move it like 1/3 of the way down automatically as it comes in the other side.
Oh,
so it's a very, very easy way, and people have been really excited as to how easy it is now to actually take their content and put it into repeat.
So the plugin is for Photoshop.
Plugins for Photoshop, it's available now, adobe.com/go/textile designer. We're currently in public beta, and anybody is welcome to download the plugin and use it. People are using it to create prints for fabrics. They're also using it for applications like gift wrap and wallpaper and stuff as well.
Exactly,
so
that same issue.
It's exactly the same problem you would have in those other segments as well. So it's a really fun tool.
So people in print can make those custom-made wrappings and all those one-offs. Wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. So beta free, download today. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
And see you next time.
Absolutely.
This is Shoshana Burgett from colorkarma.com. Have a good day.